And Dick, I'm assuming you're recording the meeting?
I'd like to record it, yes.
You're on mute, but
I'd like to record it, yes.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so our first order of business is the approval of the minutes for the April meeting that Debbie had sent out a few days ago with the agenda. Could I get a motion, and then we could see if there's any discussion or changes? Any motion to approve? I think everyone's on mute just about. So Janet, were you trying to make a motion?
I did.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, April 13th, 2021.
Is there a second? Okay. I'm just writing down a J and an S. Those are my minutes with my left hand. Okay. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, we'll move to a roll call. Sarah?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Sorry, not Kendra. Janet?
Aye.
Rosalie?
Aye.
And Lynn is an aye, so the minutes pass unanimously. Thank you. Alex had mentioned that he had a conflict tonight, so he wouldn't be able to join us this evening. Okay, so our next item is the Downtown Initiatives Update by Kevin. Welcome, Kevin.
Evening, everybody. It's good to see you all.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
So, obviously a lot of things we've been talking about continue to move forward. But one I really want to focus on is coming out of town meeting a week and a half ago, on the 8th. We've talked about this before in these meetings about the highway garage and the opportunity. And two very important articles, Article 35 and Article 36, both passed. And as a result of that, it's going to allow us to take the next steps in trying to see what other opportunities there might be out there in the marketplace for a higher and better use of that space. Just from next steps specifically, my hope is to start pushing the information out to different people who might potentially be investors or real estate agents, things of that nature, just to let people know that this is something that's on the horizon. If they have clients that are interested, just to sort of let them know that the opportunity is happening. And then subsequently, my hope is to come back to a more broad community conversation like we had a few months ago via Zoom, where we were able to lay out for people. We had about, I think, 98 participants. We were able to lay out sort of the opportunity and the steps we're going to take. And this will be an opportunity to bring people back together to update them on where we are and to get hopefully a little bit more feedback on what people would like to see out of that space. Using that information from that meeting, and maybe even a subsequent meeting if necessary, we'll look at trying to start crafting an RFP that we could put out to the market to see who is interested. And that RFP will be, certain things will be specifically called out in the RFP if we get specific feedback from the community that is pushing in one direction or the other. And we'll go out and we'll see if there's an interest, if it makes sense, and then kind of go from there. That's all a lot of steps there. That's kind of the long term, but the immediate now is to start getting some more information on the site. VHB did some renditions, which some mock-ups, I should say, that I'll share with everybody later in the agenda of the building. That coupled with traffic counts, we're going to be doing an updated traffic count on the downtown and at 97, which will be part of the information we push out to people so that they know, what the opportunity, all the details associated with it. But it's exciting that we'll be able to kind of go through the summer and start working through that process. And I've always said this, and it's, working with the select board on this is the opportunity to kind of hear what the community would like and then hear what the market might think is appropriate for there. Doesn't tie us to any specific type of project at the end of the day. We're open to all different ideas, but it's certainly going to be really important to make sure it's a community conversation at the end of the day. That's going to drive a lot of this. So very exciting. And those who came to town meeting and participated, thank you for your efforts. And a lot of people, Martha, I'm going to say specifically to Martha, thank you too, as well for all the work you did helping us understanding the process, making sure we had our ducks in a line, and the work that you've done, not just on this project, but more globally, because all that helps us get to where we are right now. So thank you. So the garage is the big one. I mean, there's a couple other ones that are percolating that we'll talk about later on the agenda, the wayfinding and the streetscapes. A couple other just very brief updates. Our website, we're looking at possibly as early as early to mid-June of rolling out the new website for the town. We talked about this prior, about what we're looking to do with that. There's still a little bit more work we need to do on that. There'll be an update to the select board on a week from today, on Monday, the 24th meeting. We'll get some feedback from the board, obviously, as well, and then we'll keep moving that forward as well. But thank you to the working group. I don't think anyone in this call is on that working group per se, but we've got a good group of people that's helped through the process thus far. But that continues to move. And then the planters, both the ground mounted planters and the planters that will be on the lights, the solar lights, we'll be moving the ground mounted ones out to some strategic locations, entering into the downtown and within the downtown, specifically at the parklet. And I think there was a request, I think it was Kim actually, you might have mentioned this, having one over by the rail trail, which I think was a great idea. So we'll make sure we have one over there as well, sort of the bookend, both entry points into the downtown with those ground-based planters. Those are the same planters that were used at town meeting. And again, thank you to the Topsfield Garden Club for their support and their efforts in helping us prepare those as well. They look beautiful. So I think that's it, Madam Chair. I think that's all I have for tonight. With a couple of really interesting ones coming up on the agenda, I'll pause for now, unless anyone has any questions or comments.
Janet?
Yeah, Martha, how about the hanging planters? When will the hanging baskets go in?
I'm not sure what the final arrangement with Noonan's was, but we did tell him that we wanted them up by Memorial Day.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. I haven't been in touch with Noonan's.
Yeah.
I know Donna has been handling, all of the arrangements.
Right. The proposal that they had was for late May. So I'm hoping this weekend, but definitely for Memorial Day, because it was late May, and I'm ready. I'm really ready for those.
And you will notice that we picked up matching plants to go as little highlights in the ground-mounted planters. So we were able to get the same plant that will be hanging above with, two of them in each of the ground-mounted planters.
Yeah.
So they should coordinate.
And I don't know if anyone noticed, but Alex now has 5 planters, window boxes all around the parklet, which look fantastic. I went in there and told them today. And those colors will also tie into the planters that we'll have, because they have the pink and the purple. Yeah, it looks really good. Really good.
That's great. And just backing up a minute, I just wanted to thank everybody for the work that you did in getting people to come out to the town meeting and for being there yourselves. Because towards the end, we were thinking, oh no, we're going to lose our quorum, because as people get their articles addressed, they tend to wander off. So thank you for getting that number there, because even with the wandering off, we maintained a quorum to get everything.
It was so cold. Oh, I was a popsicle. I was so cold.
I know. And it was like 15 degrees warmer if you went out from underneath the tent. As soon as you wandered out, it was beautiful.
Well, a big change from last year when we were frying on the field. And this year, I couldn't stay warm.
Both ways kept things moving, right? If you're too hot or you're too cold.
I think I said earlier at the department head meeting on Monday, I think if you take the average of the two, it was 70 and sunny.
There's a glass is half full guy. That's great. So any other questions about anything Kevin did mention before we get into the wayfinding and streetscape and then the town activities?
I have a kind of related comment. I just want to point out that the senior class rolling rally is going to be on June 1st. And so it'll be really beautiful if all the hanging planters are out for them. They've had a tough couple of years finishing up high school. So hopefully Topsfield will turn out and look beautiful downtown.
Yeah. What time is that at?
I think
Sarah,
it's
what
at
time
5.
does it start?
Yeah, it's at 5. The kids have to be there at 4, and then the rally hope to start at 5.
So it's at the same route. Does it start at the fairgrounds and goes down Main Street, or South Main?
That's my understanding. It does the same route that it did last year.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I think they're still working out. However, Chief Hovey is all over it, so
And he's so
whatever they
cooperative.
do, it'll be good. What's that?
Yeah, he's so cooperative. Like he's willing to do whatever to make it a great rolling rally, not parade, rolling rally for the kids.
Yeah, it's nice. It's awesome.
Is there no in-person graduation at all?
There is.
Oh, there is. Okay, good.
But they thought they were going to have to limit to one guest per graduate. So they decided to do the rolling rally so that more people, because it was so awesome last year. But now everything's changed. And so it's sounding like we can have more guests at the in-person graduation. But the rolling rally is still, I think last year community seemed like the PTO president just over the weekend was like, oh, when is it? I want to publicize it. We had so much fun last year. I think all the people that don't attend graduation, it's nice. It's just such a nice community building. So thanks, Sarah, for mentioning that.
Great. All right. Kevin, you want to move on to wayfinding?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So we have a few people actually on the call here who are part of the working group, but we've talked about this before. One of the things that we engaged with in the last couple of months, and a big thank you to Janet for leading the charge on it, was working with Brian Pierce from Omloop, who is a very talented and very thorough designer. I've been very impressed with his work to date, but specifically around wayfinding signage for the downtown. We added to the scope signage for a potential design for signs at our parks, so Pie Brook, Clock, and such as well, just so we have a comprehensive approach for signage in town, because those are the other ones that we have signs. And I think personally, we can maybe do a little better than what exists if we can in the future. Freshen those up would be a good thing. So, but specifically with the wayfinding project, went to contract with Omloop to perform the design. The scope included directional signs, a monument or entrance sign design, as well as a kiosk design that we could incorporate in town, which would show, which I'll show you in the slide deck in a minute, but would show some of the amenities in town as well. But generally went to contract shortly thereafter. After Brian and I had a conversation, pulled together a really great group of people as sort of the ad hoc steering committee around the project. And there's a lot of people with marketing backgrounds. There's people with very specific art backgrounds, economic development backgrounds, historical perspectives. Just a really good mix of people that've been working on the committee thus far. I have a regular standing meeting with Brian every Wednesday morning just to touch base. And we've had two, that's why I called it an ad hoc steering committee, because we had 2 ad hoc meetings with the group thus far to talk about designs. And so what I'll share in a minute is sort of the latest. And I'm going to show the first slide deck, which is a little bit more comprehensive version than the second one, but I'm going to go to a second one. We'll show the most recent version of the signs that the working group's been working on. So I'm going to share screen, and I believe Debbie has given me permission to do so. Let's pull this up. All right. Let me know if you can see this one second.
It's not up yet, Kevin.
Yeah, nothing
Not
yet.
working.
Yeah,
Looked like
one
it was
more
trying to load.
Start another try at this.
we're all back. Oop. Screen, Zoom, stop broadcast.
It looks like it's trying to do a screen broadcast. Is that what you're
Yeah.
intending, Kevin?
No, I'm not. But I'm not able to.
You can't pull up the PowerPoint?
Much. Yeah, give me one last try.
Okay.
When I'm going in here, the only option I have is start broadcast. And when it does it, it's coming up with that screen. Give it another try.
If you open your PowerPoint just on your computer,
Yeah, let's see if I can get back there. Try one last thing. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. No problem.
Is it working?
yes.
All right, perfect.
Yes, good.
All right, got through my own technical difficulties. So this is the original version of the first slide deck. Brian's approach is kind of take it from a high level, and then we start working our way down. And what we first started with was we kind of threw all the possible locations where we might want to put different types of signs, and we identified different locations. This is not comprehensive. We've added a couple since here, but I'll walk you through and then I'll explain the ones we added. So if you're coming northbound on Route 1, where the Welcome to Topsfield sign is, right now there's nothing that directs people to the downtown, down South Main. And so we're looking at a directional sign preemptive to that sign that points people down South Main. Brian suggested a directional sign at the fairgrounds. We've walked back on that just because there's really nowhere to go there. It's just the entrance to the fairgrounds. So it doesn't necessarily make much sense to point people anywhere at that point. And then if you continue to move up at High Street and Route 1, that's a key location as well. And then staying on Route 1, if you go up to Ipswich towards the top of the screen, we've added that as a possible location as well. Now, if you come down Ipswich towards Route 97, when you come to 97 at that intersection, we would need another directional sign directing people to take the left instead of the right to get to the downtown. So that's also one that's been added in the next version. And then as you approach the Common, a possibility of a sign there that says downtown ahead. And then the possibility of doing something of a gateway sign, possibly in that area near Town Hall, is something that's been floated and discussed as a possibility as well. In addition to that, we talked about coming from Washington Street and having something preemptive to the intersection there at 97, directing people towards the downtown from that direction. And then we talked about possibly doing something when you enter the downtown from South Main to Main at the rail trail. It's likely we probably don't need a sign there. We want to make sure it's subtle, not too overwhelming with the amount of signs we put out there. But we also identified that as a possible location for a kiosk, an informational kiosk at the rail trail, because we've got a lot of people from out of town that come down. And we could talk about some of the amenities. And then in addition to that, we also talked about a possible kiosk at the fairgrounds itself. So when people from all over the state and New England come to the fair, there's a sign there that says Topsfield. These are the things we have to offer in our community. So this was the first sort of identifying the locations through the survey. And then Brian started taking some photos when he was on site of some of the locations, existing signage. This is in front of the fairgrounds. We've like I said, we're probably not necessarily going to put a sign there, but that was the location. Took some stuff. And then at High Street, one of the things, as you can notice here, there's a lot of signs, a lot of things going on with the traffic lights and the signage. But the one thing I thought was really telling was there's one sign that talks about any type of business, and it's that one in the down second from to the right. It actually advertises people to leave town and go in the opposite direction of the downtown, head towards the farm in Danvers. So it was interesting to see that. And then is just looking at approaching down High Street as you come towards 97 and Main Street as well. You can see there we have the arrow pointing to right around where the town hall sign is a possible location for sort of an entrance sign into the downtown. And then during his survey, he started taking some pictures of the existing elements that are in the downtown. And then he started looking specifically at architecture in the downtown. You can see some examples of strong architecture that we have in town. And then Brian started taking some images of the existing signage, sort of what are themes that exist right now in and around the downtown area. And then beyond that, he started taking images of some of our existing stores and their signs. And I think I've said this to a couple of people. He actually mentioned that Gill's grocery store might be the oldest sign he's ever seen. His words, not mine. But there's some examples of some interesting signage that he liked. You can see on the far left, those are examples of Tom's shop as well. And then again, just some more examples of some specific signs and some of the themes of the color at the top. And then Brian talked about some design, some little bit of branding. And as he was here, he kind of get the sense of, farming community. The rooster image, the bottom left. I know there's a significant history in Topsfield about the rooster, more so than say a tractor. But the tractor symbolizes a lot of what this community was founded on, and that's the agriculture. So this was sort of to kind of keep us going and being inspired. And then with all that, started to come together with some signs that he thought might be relevant to Topsfield. And so then from there, he got a little bit more granular with some design elements of some of the signs, some more examples of signs, a lot of history, as you can see as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's 3 examples of his first sort of attempt at signage. This was the first one. And we've talked about, from a branding standpoint, what we want to call ourselves is downtown village, town center, etc. And with the working group, we came back. The town center was something that Brian came back with. Topsfield Town Center has a ring to it. The group seemed to think it was a good one. But we're still open to other suggestions too. However, we want to sort of brand that or title our downtown. But there's a lot to be said about the name, right? So it's, can't just be a downtown. In my mind, doesn't fit, because a downtown could be downtown Beverly or downtown Boston. It has some scale, so I think the town center sort of grounds it a little bit, but still says there's a center. Second example, and some of the inspirations on the left there of sort of straight lines, contrasty colors. This was one that you can see the town hall was the inspiration for the design. The working group, I think, unanimously said that having this shadow element wasn't necessarily something that they liked per se. But there were some certain elements in this that the working group did like. And the first meeting we had, I'll show you the next one, but this was one that the people seemed to gravitate towards, or at least at a high level. There were things in this that people liked a lot. And then the third one Brian came up with was with the cranberry colored background, not cherry, it's cranberry. and it has inspiration from that architecture in that blue building downtown. Concerns with that one is maintenance, fading. I've seen a maroonish color being used, or reddish maroon, in another city, and it very quickly faded after a few years and looks pink now. And it's definitely not the image we were going for. So this was just an idea of scale, of what the signs might look like, depending on the different types of locations. The far right one, there was the question was posed from the working group: is that too big? Could we go a little bit smaller? Brian's playing with that to see if it can, from a scale standpoint, if we can, without sort of losing the image of being able to see the sign clearly. And then this was the first shot, and you'll see in a second the updated versions of trying to do something with the entrance. That I knew this was probably, when we showed this to the working group, was going to be the most maybe divisive of the different concepts. You can see the inspirations from the window panes there and the barn door, but it's very different than what exists currently in downtown Topsfield, or in town center in Topsfield. And so from there was a request of looking at granite pillars on either side as an alternative. And then this gives you just some ideas of what it might look like. Brian went with the maroon in this one. In the next slide deck, you'll see an updated one, but you can see on the right as you approach what that like. And then as you...
Janet, did you have a comment? I'm sorry, Kevin.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I thought I was on mute.
Oh.
And then this was an example of that directional sign as you approach the fair. This is, to me, is of all the signs, could be the most important sign that we actually put out there. I'd say a lot of the people that come to Topsfield Fair in the fall, they go past right to the fairgrounds, and then they leave and they go back out Route 1. And this hopefully can let people know that there's something going on. That the downtown is not the Petco, that there's a downtown. If you just go down just a little bit down South Main. And one of the other feedbacks I'll mention is, and this is a great idea, Tom came up with this one, which was, can we put something in there that says shopping and dining? And so we posed that to Brian to see if he could incorporate that. So bear with me. I'm going to try to now share the more recent version. So, can everyone still see this?
Yes.
Okay. So this is an updated version based on the working group's first comments. You can see it's added a few different sign locations. I'll just emphasize, this is just kind of putting everything out there. I don't think we'll end up with this many signs at the end of the day when we do move forward with the project. But this is all the places people had identified as places we might want to consider putting signs up. And so this was the slide that just shows what work was done originally. And now this is sort of the last version of the concept that Brian came up with. On the left, you can see the directional sign, and it says shopping and dining at the bottom, which I thought was I think it looks really great. And I think it really captures, people looking to grab some food or to shop. It tells you that's where you go. It doesn't leave much to the imagination other than this is the way to go. It's direct, which I think is important when you're driving and looking for something, an amenity. The second one's the open space sign. So that's Highbrook. It's in the same family. It's a little bit different, but it's in the same family of the rest of the signs. And then obviously we have the kiosk design. It's a two-sided kiosk, one with a map, and the other side then has some imagery of things in Topsfield to do. And then Brian took another shot at Brian likes the black, and he wanted to try another shot at the sides of it with the black. I'd say a pared down version of that window pane version is what he came up with there. And then there's the granite pillar concept as well, which we've asked them to do, which I think certainly fits with a lot of the signage that exists in the downtown. And then on the left is the close-up version of the directional sign. You know, Brian, I talked about the history is really important, obviously, Topsfield. I think it's something, but for people who want to go downtown, I think it's less about the history of the downtown as much as letting people know shopping and dining. Talked to Brian about, could we put 1650 on the front of the sign? And then we kind of talked ourselves out of that just because we didn't necessarily want to put too much on the front of the sign. We could probably incorporate the 1650 on the monument sign, the one there on the right, where the 1650 is. Now, I'll also note that when we were looking at this sign here, the monument sign, we didn't like the incorporate 1650. It leaves a lot of space on either side. It doesn't really flow that well. He was going to come back with a different concept on the 1650, possibly below Topsfield Town Center and maybe with some other elements to it in the next version he was going to create. But this was really interesting. The other thing about this sign, besides the incorporate 1650 on the back, which I thought was kind of neat, he said, "Hello, we should really consider cutting out the arrow. It gives it some more depth. It makes the sign look a little bit more, has a little more flair. It looks a little better done, I guess is the best way to put it, as an option." Then Brian played with the no border concept as well, which when we got on the call and talked about this, he said, I talked myself out of it. Said, I thought we might want to do no border, but now I'm thinking the border's the better look. But that was Brian's thoughts on that. And then since Brian provided this, we also had another ad hoc steering committee meeting. And some of the things we were going to play with from here was the Topsfield Town Center, possibly doing, and I don't have it in front of me, I have it written down in my office, but I know there's a specific font that was requested that we asked Brian to look at, that we were going to look for the Topsfield Town Center. So it wasn't as a little more, it looked probably maybe more similar to shopping and dining than it does up there with the bold print. And then this is just, again, showing examples of the locations of the signs. And that's the signs. So what,
any feedback?
I love what progress you guys have made. I think it's wonderful. I'm very prone to the rooster. I'm very prone to the rooster triangle. Did that get completely nixed?
Nothing's completely nixed, but it was not, that design was not the one that the working group sort of wanted to take the next step with. We could always put a rooster into it if it's something the group thinks that we want to.
It's just one tiny bit of a little bit of, identification with the agricultural roots. And I think it looks like a Rossignol ski. No, sorry, that's my skiing background. But I think it looks fantastic. I mean, just to have that kind of identification of where things are to go to, in the village center. I think of the village center, but the village might be too small and quaint, compared to saying it's the town center. I don't know if you guys threw that around, but that might have been eliminated because of that reason. It sounds too small.
I think it was eliminated because the Topsfield Village is the shopping center name.
Oh, okay. Good point.
Kendra, what was the name of the font that we talked about the other day? I just want to make.
We didn't have a font specifically. We were talking about serif versus sans serif, and that we felt that having a serif typeface would soften it and give it a little bit. I mean, it doesn't have to be ye old, old English or something. It can be there are typefaces with a serif that have a more modern flair, but they're not quite as institutional as the sans serif typeface that he was showing. So that was the thought.
Yeah.
I'd like to put in my 2 cents for the rooster. That the rooster is on the top of Town Hall right now. That's where it came from. And it's there because it used to be on the 1759 meeting house spire. That got taken down when the bell tower was put up, and they put a fish up. And for a decade or more, people were still arguing about the rooster versus the fish. Then when the new meeting house was put up, they eliminated the fish and put up the kind of flag thing that's there now. But the rooster has universal symbolism, around the world, and it's on our town hall because the people who built it recognize that. And just because we have an ugly rooster on the website doesn't mean that there couldn't be a really elegant and attractive rooster as something. Right now, there's no logo, on any of these signs. There's nothing that, so they look sort of alike, but there's nothing lively. And I think a rooster or, the 400-year-old oak, but something that would add some visual interest to all of these signs, I think would be very, very nice. And I think someone should give a shot at producing a kind of calligraphic rooster, that does capture. And I congratulate Brian for having noticed that and having seen that it is sitting on the top of our building, and that he saw that as an emblem of Topsfield and proceeded to try and incorporate it into the signage. So that's my 2 cents on the rooster. It's historically important. It has universal symbolism, and you could do a pretty one, that could appear on all of these signs as a unifying, lively bit of interest. You see, right now they're very static with the just lettering and directions and arrows, but you need something, to kind of liven these up.
How does everyone feel about the colors? Do you like the white with the cranberry around the edge?
Yes, I like that one better.
Yeah. We've always been prone to that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be cream. It's supposed to be cream and cranberry, not stark white. If we keep with the colors that we've been trying to use right along.
That's kind of our Topsfield Main Street Foundation days.
Right.
We kind of established that. That's what we used to have, the banners. It was the cranberry, the black, the gold. And that's the Welcome to Topsfield sign. I mean, Kevin was saying that it fades. I'm hoping that some of the signage has that capacity to retain pigment that we would invest in to have them made up. But that's a nice color scheme. In my opinion, it's a nice color scheme.
The historic district signs that are cranberry have been up there for a number of years now, and they're still hanging in there. We haven't noticed, any fading. Right, Kendra?
Yeah, they've at least 5 years, I guess.
Yeah.
Time flies, but at least 5 years.
Kevin, how did Brian feel about the cream color as the background instead of the white, from an aesthetic designer perspective?
I think it is. The color used, I don't know if it's necessarily cream. It's an off-white, though. It is definitely going to have, it won't be a stark white color. It'll be the cranberry with tan, but not tan.
If I'm not mistaken, Kim can correct me. I think the color is called pearl. Is that right, Kim? That's what it's called. That's its name.
Any suggestions on the design other than the rooster and going to like the pearl versus the stark white? Do you need to see it again? Does it need to be up on the screen for you to look at? Kevin, would you mind just throwing it back up?
No problem.
I think they look great.
How do you feel about the big sign in downtown? We had a little bit of discussion about the message board that's right now in front of Town Hall, and how people do look at the message board. If that's where the big sign was going,
Yeah.
would we be moving the message board? Would we? Yeah, I'm not sure what discussions took place with the working group about the message board and the placement of that larger sign.
I think it was left to kind of a to be determined, but the message board, it could certainly be improved. To be
Oh
sure.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of ugly.
Yeah, it doesn't do. But there's something very attractive about advertising all of these different community events. Vote today, recycling something. A strawberry festival. That it does give a sense. And again, this is just me. That a person driving into town and seeing, all of these little community messages, Boy Scout Camp Drive and whatever, it gives a real sense of activity, that this isn't just kind of a static sign, but rather there's stuff happening,
I'm wondering if it could be redesigned with this look.
Yeah, exactly.
And feel,
Yeah.
but still have the utility.
Yeah.
And we've kept
Right.
the entrance or monument sign very simple. So we could there's a real possibility we might be able to incorporate something within that sign in and of itself. So we don't have competing signs necessarily. But that's some of the feedback at the last work group meeting we had that I was going to take back as well, is incorporate that in a way and take a shot at it. If not, if it doesn't come out, anything that aesthetically looks right or it gets lost, then maybe go back to the drawing board. But for right now, that was going to be tomorrow morning when I meet with Brian, I was going to mention that as well.
Kevin, could you get that up there, the design again, just to get
Okay.
any other feedback?
I must say, when I first talked to Brian, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, when I first initiated conversation with him, I did talk to him about signage pollution, and he agreed. I said, I'm at least in that person who thinks that there's too much signage. There's so much signage. When you really look around it and go through our community, it is amazing. The crosswalk is coming up. This thing is coming up. That thing is coming up. And so I was hoping that we could find some ways to add meaningful signage at the same time reducing the numbers of signs. And, that I think would be a very good outcome of this effort. When I look at this and see all the additional signs that are possibilities and think what's out there already, that I'm hoping some of this stuff will substitute, some new signage will substitute for some of our old signage or duplicate. Like Kevin, you were just saying, you could have like, this is the Topsfield, town center and the event sign at the same time. I mean, instead of having multiple signage on our, kind of beautiful historic center of the common.
That's a great point, Janet.
Yeah.
Could you move to the actual design, Kevin? Could you just page forward to what is the most current? Is that the most current?
That's the most current of the four types of signs he created. And this is specifically the directional one. And then this,
Could we go back to the granite posts?
Yeah. That looks a little odd to me.
Well, one of the reasons that it looks a little odd is that it's an obelisk. It's got those pointy tops.
Yeah.
And that all of the rest of the granite post signs in the downtown have flat tops. And Dick will remember very well that these were all things that the Board of Selectmen approved. In addition, these are a bit heavy, that these granite posts could be, you can't make them too thin or else they don't look quite right, but they are a bit too weighty for this, so a flat top, and a slightly slimmer look, I think would be much more in keeping with the multitude of granite post signs that are in the downtown.
How do people feel, granite or black?
I like the black. I like the
I like
black.
the black as well. I think the the black ties into the light posts that we have too. I really like when I look at downtown now, those light posts like really stand out. You know, when we talk about sign clutter, in a lot of you have the green highway signs and everything. I love the stuff that's framed in black. I feel like it really stands out and it looks crisp and clean.
I like the black.
Well, if you will excuse me, I question putting something like this in front of a Second Empire style town hall. I mean, you know, we've got a very elaborate, as I say, Second Empire style town hall sitting right behind it, and that this is much more modern in appearance. And I'm not so sure that this actually plays off against town hall very well.
Kevin, did you guys talk at all about the issue that Janet raised about, you know, taking things down? Was that discussion held about merging two signs into one and updating it?
So it hasn't at this point in the process, Lynn. It's mostly been around creating the sign, and then like through our conversations right now, for example, is can we combine signs, you know, eliminate, you know, get as much as we can out of one sign versus just, you know, having like separate signs. We haven't talked about taking any down. I think that would be a separate exercise in an audit that we probably want to go through and say, okay, we've got this wayfinding sign or that wayfinding sign.
I wonder how many of them we actually have control over too, like the Parson Cape in-house sign, the green signs that are directing to other towns, etc. How much do we have the ability to take down ourselves?
Let me bring up the other slide deck real quick because you'll see here. So just from I think what Martha was saying, from a design standpoint, that the building that'll be in front, that the sign will be in front of, right? So that's just to give you a sense of that. But these are some of the signs, to your point, Lynn, that we have existing right now. That
the Congregational Church is a good example for that area, definitely, because there are two of those on the common with the granite post and the softer curved top. It's not as institutional looking as the other signs are.
Yeah, and it has a logo. Like the historic district has the town seal. You know, whether we come up with a rooster, I really do think, Kevin, that we probably should put that on the agenda just to come up with, you know, a logo, a look. As far as whether it's going to be black mounting brackets or posts or granite, I think that's secondary after we get the look, because if we do a sign that is not straight across but have some motion to it, we may want to change the mounting, or, you know, whether it's, if you look at the historic markers, it is on it's a wooden background, whether you do wood or that new AZAC 4L construction stuff, and just, you know, have it a cream thing, you know, have a cream, you know, and I think it all comes once we approve a look. Then I think secondary is okay. Is how are we going to hang it? How are we going to mount it?
Yeah.
What color? And then Janet Metz's point as well as, and we did briefly talked about this, is that to review, you know, have Brian come to view all the other signs, like you said, because it is sign pollution downtown. What we can take away, you know, there's some that are faded that you can't even see, you know.
Yeah, I think the project in its entirety is a multi-phase approach, right? So let's get a design. Let's incorporate what we think is the right feel. Let's then look at all of the signs. What's the universe of signage? What possibly could be taken down or moved or combined? And then thirdly is then finding funding, because this is not going to be an inexpensive project to do. It's going to be very 6 figures to do it in its entirety, likely. Now, we would also, look at that map and say that, maybe half those signs that we've identified as locations for signs can come down. Maybe not. It all depends. Maybe we don't want to cut out the arrow, and that might save us, X amount on each of the signs. I'm always I always like to do it once and do it right. And, if we're going to put our best foot forward, let's do that. Right. So I've got some ballpark estimates on what the sign's going to potentially cost. Now that we've gotten to a point, we've got a lot more work to do, but we can at least get a high level cost. And we're going to have to probably eliminate some signs just by the fact that we probably can't afford to do the entirety of it, to be frank.
If I could ask, just because I know that Martha, Kim, and Kendra have given feedback to Kevin, and generally I think they think the signs are too stark, too modern. Could we hear from Janet, Rosalie, Sarah, and Zilly? Are you comfortable with this new design? Do you feel more the way Martha, Kim, and Kendra feel, which is they're too stark and too modern? If we could get any of your ideas, that'd be great.
Yeah, actually, just while we were talking, I Googled like images of some other places like Salem, for example, because to me, I don't feel that. I feel that they complement. Like I don't see them as, I like them. I feel like there's a crisp and cleanness to them that people will notice it, where I think sometimes when it's the same, I don't want to say old fashioned, but for lack of a better word, designs, you might not even realize it's a new sign and a new thing to take a look at. I feel that I feel like when you have kind of a busy room and then you you kind of neutralize some of the busyness with something calming. That's kind of what these do for me. So I could see them. I'm sorry, Martha, because I love you, but I could see them in front of Town Hall as, I don't know how to describe. I'm finding a hard time describing it, but that's just my opinion. Is I like how they look.
Thank you, Zilly.
I like. Oh, go ahead,
Sarah or Rosalie.
I'll just go because I'll be quick because I already spoke a little bit. But to me, I don't think that these are too modern at all, and they kind of evoke kind of a historical college to me. Like I feel like this is like William and Mary, or Harvard, or one of those old schools with history. And I feel like it, a lot of those there's like Harvard situated in Cambridge, which is a mix of old tradition and some new. And I feel like Zilly, like I love how clean and crisp they are. I loved the picture of the one on Route 1. I think that really stood out. I hear what Martha's saying about the one in front of Town Hall. Maybe that I'd have to think about what that would look like in front of that building. But I mean, my house is the same vintage as Town Hall, but it also has a 1790s barn. And, I don't know. I feel like that sometimes the mixing works, and there's a lot of mixed architecture in town. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, before you leave the town, can I just say with the Town Hall specifically, maybe getting that building committee's opinion?
That's a good point. And it may change the look too if it's incorporated as part of a message board. It could soften that look a little bit as well. Rosalie, any thoughts?
Yeah. So I like the black. I think similarly that it is clean looking, and the signs are clean looking, and you don't have, and I'm not opposed to roosters, but I don't think they belong on these signs, because this tells you exactly what you're looking for in signage without a graphic on it. And I think Town Center This Way, or that's what we're looking for, to point people in the right direction, not to add a logo or graphic or anything other than town direction here is good. And I like the look of them. I don't think they're too modern. I think they're like a bridge between the modern and the old style. I think the goal is to kind of get us to that point where we're doing a little bit more modern things in our downtown, and at least bringing at least bringing more people into the downtown that are younger, more people that are going to spend a lot more money, etc. on that front. Millennials aren't looking at a rooster saying, "Oh, that looks exciting," or looking for a sign that has a lot of historic detail on it. They're really looking for, point me in this direction and I will go there.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Rosalie. Jan?
I kind of agree with everybody in a sense, but am I the only one who really likes kind of the softening of the hard line, at the top? I kind of like that look of the sort of the curved top and the rooster logo. I just think it doesn't have to be gigantic, but I just feel like it's kind of our label, that we can kind of have and put on things and put on letterhead. I mean, I like the one on the left much better with the border in the burgundy than without the border, definitely. But I would like to see a little bit of curve and a little rooster. But
okay. Great, thank you. I know we're not going to solve everything tonight, and Kevin will take the input back to Brian. Maybe he can come up with a rooster edition and a curve just to compare and see what it looks like. But just because it's almost 7:30 and we're just don't want us to go on too long. Kevin, do you need any other input on this from folks or anything else you want to share?
No, I think that's great. I really appreciate everybody pitching in on that. We have a working group. At the last meeting, we had only a few people, unfortunately. Time for that, we had about 7 or 8. So hearing your first look at that, you get in the weeds sometimes, your head down to get people's first perspectives is really helpful. So thank you. We're going to work on probably getting some, base, softening of the lettering, see what that looks like to compare it. But, wherever we end up, I can say 2 things. One, this is going to be a way better end product than Ipswich. I hate Ipswich designs. And 2, this process we're undertaking, I think, is incredibly thoughtful. And I think wherever we land on this, where we are now is leaps and bounds ahead of, I think, other communities that go through this process. I promise you, most communities don't spend this much time or put such a good group of people together and get as much input in the process as we're doing. And I think that's so important. And I'm super excited for, the thoughtfulness that's gone into this and the work everyone has done to help guide the process. So thank you.
Yeah, if I could make one more comment, if we don't want roosters, we do, and believe me, I'm not wedded to roosters, but we do have a really unique 400-year-old oak tree that has a quite remarkable shape, a very graceful shape, but it's a very unique shape for an oak tree. It's down by the co-op, if people don't know where it is. It's over 400 years old. And there is, I'm sure, not another oak tree that looks like that. So it could be, to take a picture. It was on the cover of last year's annual report, the oak tree, and that could be an interesting piece, to think about if we're looking at a logo or looking at adding something.
Yeah, I think Dick is trying to have it come up. The background is making it disappear, Dick. You're just gray. Oh, now you're back. It's hard.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is. Okay.
But if you really back off from it, it has a really unusual bottom part of the trunk and then the sort of graceful overhanging, branches.
Thanks, Dick.
It's a neat image.
Thank you, Martha. All right. Thanks, everybody, for all that input. And Kevin will keep us posted on his next iteration of things with Brian. Were you going through the streetscape at all tonight, Kevin, or no?
By way of update, we had our first look from the designer of the 3 locations from a streetscape standpoint from VHB. Again, that's the entrance into the downtown. That's the highway garage and the old highway garage and the well, there's actually 4 images. We have one that shows in front of the village Topsfield Village Plaza, and then one that shifted the image, so it shows the former Santander Bank, Country Farm, and Topsfield House of Pizza, and gave some images of that. I do plan to speak with. I want to talk with the vendor, the designer, and see if we can get a little bit more information. I was hoping to have that meeting before tonight's meeting, so I can actually share his thought process like I did with Brian, because I think that's helpful to understand sort of why he did things a certain way to bring back to you folks. And I had a few questions, and I know a couple people who have had a chance to glance at them have had a couple questions as well. So seeing the time, Madam Chair, and knowing that it's not really there, maybe I could table this for our next meeting.
That'd be fine. And so I'm assuming then Sarah and her TCP team are kind of on hold as well then? Does she not have the components to move forward? Because it looked like they were also designing part of Main Street where she was looking with her team.
Yeah, I think there's certain elements that we were hoping to have incorporated in the raised bed, specifically that area, that weren't actually incorporated in the first version. So again, I think I certainly can give folks a quick look at it, or we can pause if you prefer, and we can come back.
Why don't we wait so that you can present it the way you'd like to?
Okay.
As opposed to doing it kind of like halfway, so people don't understand the thought process. But
yeah, can I just so I think it's fine to wait. I was hoping to apply for a grant in early June, but I'd need to I'd need to get quotes, like a budget, and I guess it's probably not realistic to get into this June grant cycle. So if they're gonna put more work into developing the elements that we talked about, Kevin, then I think we can wait till the next meeting. We would have loved to have started in June, apply for the grant, and really try to get this thing installed by the fall, but I don't think that's going to happen. So unless you think that we could start moving forward with the kit of parts, I don't know what they're going to produce for us.
Yeah, I think right now we have versions of pieces of the final product, right? So we've had the kit of parts, and we have a visual of what that might look like. It doesn't necessarily show like a bench there or something like that, which we can incorporate. I think that wouldn't be too difficult. So I always like a good challenge, Sarah. Maybe you and I can talk offline about how we can make this grant happen, because I like that idea of trying to put something in. And I think we have at least the starting point, and then we can refine it, even if it's after we put in the application.
Yeah. I just need to have enough of a plan that I can get some quotes and have a budget, because I can't apply for a grant without a budget. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me I'm gonna make a note I talked to Debbie before I left the office today, and I said we have to get with Jeffrey, because I've been emailing him a couple times. He's the consultant, he's the designer. I'm trying to get that meeting to go through this, but it's been really difficult. I know it's the end of their fiscal year as well, and they're trying to get all their projects done, but we need to have that conversation so we can keep this moving. And now that there's a grant, I can use that as leverage, maybe as the carrot to help him move this and help us get to the finish line.
Okay. All right.
sounds good. Okay. The next item was the town common activities. So, Kevin, I don't know if we hadn't really talked about this. I think giving everybody an update on the Tomato Festival, and then Kathleen giving an update on the concerts on the common. Is that what you had envisioned? Those are the two things that came to my mind for the town common activities.
Yeah, no, that sounds great, Madam Chair. I think that's perfect. There's two really, really great events that are in the works, and I think it'd be great to update everybody. So,
okay, super.
Remember the Tomato Festival has moved to Proctor.
Yep. So I'll just to bring everyone, because I don't know how much we covered this before. So just bring it up to speed. So the tomato team is Martha, Kendra, Kim, and myself. That's the base tomato team. And then we added on Zilly and Sarah as key people and Charisse reaching out to the schools and to TCP. So what we have right now is it's going to be on Sunday, the 12th of September from 12 to 3 behind Proctor School. The facility request went into Proctor and they're all on board with it. So that's great. Kathleen got us 3 bands that will be playing, and we're going to have the Proctor Band also play. And one of those 3 bands is bringing all the sound equipment, which is terrific. Thank you, Kathleen, for doing all that legwork. That's fantastic. And then we're going to have a couple of fun activities in it. We have a tomato contest. So Martha and Kendra, and I don't know who else is involved in the Tomato Day event. You guys have been holding it year over year with the 5th graders, is it?
Yeah, the 5th graders of Proctor.
So in early June, they go and they present tomato plants to all the 5th graders. So at the same time, we'll share with them about the tomato festival so that they can go home and plant their tomatoes and then enter their tomatoes in the contest. So we have Hannah Menzer, who is going to coordinate the tomato contest for the adults and the farms. And then we have Sarah Ponikvar. Am I saying that right? Ponikvar. She heads up the Girl Scouts. She's going to work with Raphael McDonald of the Boy Scouts, and they're going to judge the kids' tomatoes. And so they came up with some really fun things. The tiniest ripe tomato, a matching set of tomatoes, most colorful, craziest, overall crowd favorite, basket of plenty for different groups. And then at the end, we'll have the big tomato weigh-off, similar to the big pumpkin weigh-off at the fairgrounds, but only for the tomato. So we'll have ribbons and little prizes for that. And then Jimmy Smith, who is a chef, and he's the husband of Dan Pilata. You guys may know Dan Pilata. So I guess he agreed to head up the tasting contest. So Zilly managed to get the Masco Cooking Club to be the judges, and Jimmy's going to be the adult kind of pulling it all together. And they're going to judge chili, salsa, and tomato sauce. So there'll be people who enter these contests. And Zilly also got Essex Tech to have their culinary students submit entrees to be judged, which is really cool. That's great too. And then there's an educational component that Kendra's heading up. The Topsfield Garden Club is going to give the history of the tomato, which I never knew. Martha shared that. It's a very fun background on how dangerous people thought the tomato was. And then there's another component about what to do with all your tomatoes once the huge crop comes out at the end of August and you can't eat that many tomatoes. So it's 10 ways to preserve tomatoes. So that should be fun and educational. And then we're going to have the local farms. Martha and Kendra are coordinating that to sell their products. So it won't just be tomatoes. It's fruits, tomatoes, cheeses, everything that you could use with a tomato, breads, etc. They'll come and sell. And then we're going to have the local businesses sell their food for lunch so that we can highlight and give business to our local businesses. Of course, anything they sell has to have a tomato involved in some way. And then we're going to have games for the kids. And the Council on Aging agreed to fund the ever scary trebuchets. So we're going to have tomato trebuchets, and the school agreed to have the kids put them together as part of their STEM projects. I talked to Jen LaRussa, and Jen LaRussa is very hesitant about trebuchets. She thinks they're very dangerous. And so I said, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to order one from Amazon. And my husband and I are going to put it together, and we're going to shoot some cherry tomatoes and see if they're at all dangerous. And if they're not, I'll bring them over to Proctor to have the science teachers work with some of the kids to put these trebuchets together. So that'll be one of the games. We'll just see how far those tomatoes can fly. And then we'll have all kinds of games that involve tomatoes, tomato toss, tomato relay. We just take those standard games and put in some tomatoes there and have prizes for that. So Rosalie is getting the name of a contact for boys soccer. Is that who it was that did the Strawberry Festival?
Pretty sure it's boys soccer, but I will check the contact we have because I think it's one of the moms that coordinated with another mom. So
okay, great, thanks.
And hopefully that's the right one.
Okay. And then we have the Creative Co-op and the Art Room are jointly working to have a tomato art station. So there'll be drawing and crafts, and knowing Betsy and her musical talent, there's going to be movement of some kind too. I think she's even doing a dance troupe that's coming to do something with the band. So that'll be fun. And yeah, so Brad Sweet is going to send someone to video it, to broadcast it, and that'll be great. And we're going to just keep it to Topsfield. We're not advertising outside the town, so it'll be a very family-oriented event. So that's, did I leave anything out, guys? Anything? Okay, so yeah. So that's it for the Tomato Festival. I'll turn it over to Kathleen to talk about the concert on the Common she's planning.
Okay, so right now I have met with the library, and Laura is working on perhaps they're going to have a used book sale, and they're also thinking about trying to get a magician. The CLA is going to have ice cream from 1 to 3. And they're also going to have some games. I don't know if we can access the Veterans Park or not. We were kind of hoping to block off the street of the library, so the far end of the library. So that's adjacent to 97. So that Kathleen also thought it would be nice to have, she knows some clog dancers that could come. So we were kind of, the musicians tell me that they need 15 minutes between each performer to tune their equipment and set up. So that might be a great time to have the clog dancers, and we can play the Irish music. I have reached out to
We're losing you, Kathleen, a little bit.
People, and also he just wants to have, he doesn't want a setup outside. He wants to just leave the restaurant open. He's going to make a lot of extra pizza, sell it by the slice, but also regular foods. I haven't talked to Alex yet. I have, let's see, I'm still auditioning bands. So far we have 3. I'd like to get 4 or 5. We've also, these are things I haven't talked over with Kevin yet. So I contacted through a general website all the food truck vendors. And I didn't like the website because they want you to commit to having the vendors have X amount in sales, etc., which obviously we're not going.
Kathleen, I think we're losing you.
So I think the best bet for me, my neighbor and I are
Kathleen, we can't hear you at all. I don't know if you need to log off and come in again.
Visit all these food trucks out here, and they thought they could provide me at least 100 volunteers for the event in exchange for service hours. So I'm coordinating that with Masco. So I'm really just looking forward to sitting down with Kevin and seeing what we can and cannot do. I was also going to ask you, Kevin, does Debbie have a general map of the town so I can put on it what's going on in each area?
Oh, we can find you a map. Sure. That's
Okay.
no problem, Kathleen.
Would you
Maybe
ask?
when we'll set up a time for you to,
that
maybe we'll
was-
set up a time for you to come in and we'll just get a map ready to give you at the time and we can look at it and we can take it with you.
Okay, awesome. So
And
that's
Kathleen,
where I'm at.
that's August 21st,
Yes, from 11 to 5.
11 to 5. Okay.
And I'm just delighted to be working with Laura and Kathleen, because they're going to reach out to other communities through their newsletters and personal relationships. So they feel very comfortable that people from Boxford, Middleton, possibly Hamilton, Wenham, maybe even Beverly and Ipswich will be attending.
That's great. It sounds very fun, Kathleen.
I'm not overwhelmed yet, so it's still fun.
That'll come.
Yeah.
Okay, great. The only other thing I would add to the Tomato Festival, I was talking with Sarah. If the guys from the soccer team can't do the games, then we need to reach out maybe to a mom who has kids who might find it fun to do this, to coordinate the games, and the Scarecrow Scavenger Hunt. That's another feature that was really fun. Jen LaRussa came up with that idea, similar to the snowmen on the library lawn. There'd be little scarecrows that are created. We'd build like a cross for you to hang the clothes on, and with a big tomato head. And they would decorate the little scarecrows. There'd be 12 families that do it. And then we hide them throughout the downtown. And the kids have to go and find these little hidden scarecrows. They fill out a piece of paper and they bring that to the festival. And that becomes like a raffle ticket. They put their name on it and they can put it into a can and win, name drawn to win some of the prizes from the co-op or from Gillies or the farms or something. So that should be a lot of fun, I think. So we're looking for a mom. Sarah was going to reach out and see if she knew of anyone who might want to coordinate that project. Jen LaRussa will work with them as well to come up with that base. So if you happen to know anyone, if Sarah can't come up with any names, I have total faith in you, Sarah, but just in case everybody you know is as busy as you are, I'll just put it out there if anyone, knows of people.
Is this something that the art room could be involved in, or the creative co-op? They're super.
That's an idea, Rosalie. I could ask them because they're already doing the art station. They might. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. All right, Sarah, you keep looking though, because we might need some of her games. So, but I'll call Betsy and see. They might have a lot of fun with that. Let's see, for the scarecrows. Okay. Great. Okay, I think that's all we had for the town updates. Any questions or anything anyone wanted to share or ask before we close up shop?
I just want to say I would really like to finalize kind of what I'm doing and kind of review it with you guys so that you can help me see where the holes are in my planning. So I was hoping I was going to shoot for like early June or maybe early to mid-June. Would that be okay?
Yeah. We get together on the 8th, right? That's our next.
Would that be okay to do that?
Sure. By then you would have had a chance to meet with Kevin and see from a town perspective what works and kind of lay things out. And that sounds fine to me to put it on the agenda. Does that sound okay to everybody? Maybe we could get whatever your document is ahead of time, Kathleen. If you have something kind of typed up, that give us some time to think through some ideas.
Yep.
Just so we can bring.
I did an outline already of who I contacted and what they're doing. So I think with the map, it'll enhance. So everyone has a visual.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, Kevin's doing the motion. Okay. Kevin, and Janet, I saw your hand go up. Do you want a second?
I know. Second. Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. And roll call. Kim.
Aye.
And Janet.
Aye.
Rosalie.
Aye.
Billy.
Sorry. Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
And Lynn's an aye, so it's unanimous. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much. Have a good night. Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone, for
everybody.
coming.